Alright, so this video is about the Aristotle presentation that I'm about to give in 2 days, which is great because, I hate presenting and all that. But I'm going to do this practice video because, for context, last year I had to do a presentation in English class where it was like an SSR presentation. You read a book, you give a presentation on the book. Everyone was like stressing because it was like a big grade, and everyone spent like hours making this like elaborate presentation with like crap ton of information, and then like figuring out what they're gonna say, like putting all their words on note cards. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. So I spent 10 minutes on my Google slide and 0 minutes like actually thinking about what I was gonna say. I just made a 10-minute slideshow, and then slowly the presentation day came up, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, I don't want to present," and I also didn't want to present, but I also didn't really care. But everyone looked at me like, "Oh, let me see your presentation, bro." I showed them my 10-minute piece of crap, and they're like, "Oh my God, that's awful. You're gonna get a 0. You're gonna get an F." I'm like, "Oh, that's tragic, man." And then they present, they get like an A, an A minus, or a B plus, and I'm over here. I present, and I got an 100 because I just improv the whole thing and made a 10-minute presentation. So I try to rationalize how this happened. I'm like, how do I just like get in 100? Actually, I think you can tell my ego went up after that day. But I went home. My dad saw the presentation grade. He's like, "Oh, an 100. That's nice." But he theorized. His theory is, at the time I was making a bunch of videos where I just talk a bunch for no reason. He was like, "Okay, you got an 100 on this presentation because you talked a lot on those videos, and that helps you present." I'm like, maybe. I don't actually know, but I didn't really believe him, and I didn't really care regardless. But the reason that changed recently is because I had to give a second presentation. I say second like it's like directly after the first one. No, this is like a year later. This was recently in Gov School for a research class. I had to present some experiment that I did, the results and all that crap. Uh, it was formal, so I had to wear like a tie and like a friggin' suit. I hated that. It was awful. But the difference with this presentation was it was awful, and I presented horribly because the teacher actually recorded it, and then he sent the recording to everyone, and I look back at it, and I'm just like, it was a bad presentation. But I got an 100. But I didn't like the presentation. So this time I want to make it better. And this is a completely different class, so it's not like the teacher will see me any better anyways. I just want to try to like get better at presenting regardless, and also like in accordance to my dad's theory, at the time of the research presentation, I wasn't making random talking videos. So his theory makes more sense now. He's like, "Oh, if you make a bunch of random talking videos, you're going to get better at presenting." So I'm like testing that theory with this video, and this is like an experiment. But anyways, among other things, the presentation is in 2 days. Tomorrow I have plenty of other things going on. I have to do a holiday parade that I forgot about. I didn't remember that was even happening until this morning. That kind of sucks, but I'll practice the music like right after I do this. My instrument's over there anyways. And then I also have to do a chemistry test, and then a timed history essay, and then a research, another final presentation type thing. Not really that big of a deal. I don't really care about that one because it's pre-recorded. It just has to play a video of it. But once I get past tomorrow, I come to the next day, which is the Aristotle presentation, which is that's like the main point of this, to go over that presentation and like kind of run through it, I guess. But for some context, in humanities we're learning about philosophers, and Aristotle is one of the ones that we're going into right now. We just finished Socrates. That guy is actually stupid. Nobody likes him. And now we're on Aristotle, and based off what we've read so far, nobody likes him. He sounds pretty stupid. But it's the class. We don't have a choice. So she split us into groups, and each group individually researches a genre of his philosophy, which sounds really messy and really stupid. But it's better than each individual person doing fully deep diving every genre. Instead, each group just does a smaller genre. So I guess it's less work ultimately. But my group, got assigned ethics, which is, according to Google, ethics is the moral principles that govern a person's behavior or the conducting of an activity. Essentially, that means your moral standards when it comes to your actions. So you basically act with proper moral standards. It's not that difficult of an idea, but when you read his readings, it becomes a lot more complicating. And at the same time, It's, I don't know. Yeah, let me just try to get into my presentation. So it starts off, we introduce our group, fun fact, one of my group teammates did a lot of work. I did a good amount of work, and then the other one was on TikTok the whole time. Except at the last minute, she looked up a Google slide template and slapped it on all of our research to make it look fancy. So I guess she contributed by like Googling fanciness, I guess, like whatever. She contributed, so that's all that matters. But anyways, we start by defining ethics. And they said the concern of the nature of human well-being. Oh, I can't even put the presentation up because I'm too stupid. I don't know how to do that. But you don't want to see this. Their definition of ethics contradicts. No, it's basically the same thing as what Google said. In my opinion, I like my definition better, or what Google said. The moral principles that govern a person's behavior or the conducting of an activity. I like that better than the concern of the nature of human well-being. But they're basically the same. It's your moral standards. But it starts off, group mate number 1, presenting books written by Aristotle. I don't care. Second slide, more books and people. Third slide, that's my slide, except my group mate moved it because he's a little poopy head. Okay, so he moved around my stuff a little bit. Anyways, I'm just going to start straight out my stuff. So Aristotle defines telos. T-L-O-S. Telos. He defines it as the purpose, goal, or true final function of an object. So his arguments with this term is that 1. All objects have telos. All objects have a purpose. 2. An object is good when it properly secures its telos. So basically, let's take this chair that I'm sitting on, for example. It has a telos. Its telos is to prevent me from falling over and like having my just falling over. Yeah, my chair's purpose is to keep me like comfortable, I guess, and it has properly secured its telos because I'm sitting on it and it didn't fall over. So good chair. Anyways, that's basically all it's saying with like the first two. Number 3, the telos of a human being is to reason. So people, humans, our telos, our purpose is to act in accordance with reason. And that's actually point number 4. The good for human beings is acting in accordance with reason. This is his final point. Basically, he's saying humans, our purpose is to act within reason. And he also talks about how humans are different from every other living being because humans are capable of reasoning and, logical thinking. That makes us cooler than all the other living beings. So, to run through, he's saying everything has a purpose. Humans' purpose is to act reasonably, be smart, and then, you're a good thing, object, or living thing if you secure and properly, complete your telos. And anyways, the next term we have to define is over here because my group mate moved it to a different spot. Virtues. This is important to define before I go to the next part on how to act ethically. So a virtue is not a feeling, but rather the disposition to behave in a certain way. I forgot what that means. Basically, a virtue is how you act in response to a feeling. So if you feel sad, you could cry. I think that's a virtue. It's probably not, but anyways. The idea is a virtue is a response to it's not the emotion, it's a response action. So that's another term, virtues. The next term I have to define is phronesis. 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 The judgment that helps determine what is good in specific situations, otherwise known as practical wisdom. So phronesis is like, in my opinion, as you get older, you get more practical wisdom, more phronesis, because when you're young, you come into a situation, you don't know how to act, you don't know what's right, what's wrong, so you're stupid, you have no phronesis. When you get older, you have more experience, more knowledge, more wisdom, practical wisdom, so you're wise and you know how to act properly. You have more phronesis and you can make proper judgment on what's right and what's wrong in the specific situation. But what Aristotle presents that is super cool is the golden mean, the idea of the golden mean. So to act ethically, to act properly, he talks about if you're feeling a certain emotion, there's a golden mean response to such a feeling. This is a virtue. This is one of the virtues. The golden mean is the best virtue. There are also other virtues that are incorrect and lack proper ethics, I guess. So I have this whole table that I'm not going to show because it would give everything away. But for example, if you're feeling anger, one of the incorrect virtues is lack of spirit. That's like lack of acting upon your anger. You kind of just like shun your anger and kind of just bury it, so you have a lack of spirit, like, oh, whatever, depression, I guess. And then that's the deficiency of anger, the deficiency of acting upon your emotion. There's also excessive action upon your emotion. So if you're feeling angry, the excessive act would be irascibility, which means irascibility. That means a feeling of resentful anger. Basically, it's excessive anger, acting upon your anger excessively. So, instead of instead of expressing your anger too little or too much, you have to express it in the golden mean, the golden virtue, which is patience. This is what Aristotle presented in his table. Too little is lack of spirit, too much is irascibility. The golden middle, the golden mean is patience. So for every emotion that you feel, there's a golden mean response to this emotion. So for shame, the golden response is modesty. For fear, the golden response, the golden mean, is courage. For indignation, I don't know what that means. Indignation. Anger or annoyance. Why didn't they just say anger? For indignation, the golden mean is righteousness. I'm going to dispel that one. Let's not talk about that one. I don't like that one. But basically, for every emotion that you feel, there's a correct response. And so basically, if you practice the right response, you can just like properly, you know how to ethically respond to every emotion and how to ethically act in any situation. That's basically what he's presenting with this golden mean. If you always act in accordance with your golden mean and follow this whole Shibuya chart that he gave me, then you're ethically correct, I guess. But there's a new category, actions. I have to define actions. Actions can be involuntary or voluntary, although all action is voluntary unless it is through force or ignorance. So basically, even if you have the will to follow your proper ethics, you might have an involuntary action that doesn't follow ethics. So in those cases, you would be... Oh, my groupmate's critiquing my freaking slide. You little poopy head, this is literally what the source told me. Anyways. So, actions can be voluntary or involuntary. If it's an involuntary action, what was it? Involuntary actions, you're not morally responsible, so it's not your fault when you do an involuntary action and it's not ethically correct. But I have an example. Actions affected by force. So physical force. Let's say Donald Trump is driving the car when the passenger grabs his hand, forcing him to turn the steering wheel into a crash. So in this situation, Donald Trump is not at fault. Trump was involuntarily forced to make a mistake. He's very sorry that he made this mistake, but it happened. But he's not morally responsible for this action. He's not responsible because it's someone else's fault, and they're at fault. So this is an example of physical force creating an involuntary action. For psychological force, Biden is working at a bank when a group of robbers break in armed with guns. Biden is told he will be killed if he does not open the safe. In this scenario, it would be acceptable if Biden opens the safe for these robbers, because he's not, it's like an involuntary action. It's psychological force. The robbers told him, they threatened him. So in this case, he's not morally responsible if he does open the safe. It's acceptable because he was acting upon psychological force. Fun fact, this slide is being critiqued by my groupmate who says, please use legitimate examples that don't involve politics or death. I guess I shouldn't have brought in Trump and Biden, but these are the examples given to me by the source, so, like, whatever, I'll talk to him about that later. An action affected by ignorance is also the third example. Mr. L. This is an example. Mr. L is a talented musician who wishes to perform a surprise concert for his friend and has been practicing his country music for weeks. However, he is unaware that his friend hates country music. Therefore, when Mr. L performs his country music as a surprise, his friend storms off in anger. In this scenario, Mr. L is not morally responsible for making his friend act in a harsh way because Mr. L was ignorant of his friend's taste in music and didn't realize. So in this case, he's not morally responsible for pissing off his friend by playing trash music. But anyways, that's the end of my slides. Basically, I went through telos, purpose. Everybody has a purpose. Human purpose is to act with reason, and then your actions are virtues, and you can act better based on your age, your wisdom, your phronesis, and then the right way to act is defined as the golden mean. So whatever emotion you feel, there's a golden, perfect way to respond. So if you practice that, you can get better, and then eventually you'll become a god at being ethically correct. And then the scenarios that are exceptions to you acting incorrect, or if your action is involuntary, then that's an exception that permits you to act ethically incorrect, because if your action is involuntary and caused by some external force like physical, psychological, or ignorance, then you're not morally responsible, and that way your actions are ethically incorrect, but still acceptable because of other factors. But anyways, that's basically it. This was really bad. Also, I didn't even see my my group mate's comment of this poopy head. But anyways, I'll probably have to do some editing. But overall, that's my portion of my Aristotle Ethics presentation. I hope you didn't understand any of that, because I really didn't either. But whatever. That's my presentation. God, I went over 10 minutes. It's supposed to be a 10-minute total presentation. Okay, whatever. GG. Good game.